right now the U.S. and 12 other countries are working on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And what it's supposed to do is be a free trade deal where it encourages different countries to open up their borders and their trade barriers and facilitate economic growth. Well, that sounds lovely, doesn't it? I'm in favor of economic growth. I don't want to needlessly put up trade barriers. We want free markets, right? What it turns out in reality, of course, is corporations trying to get themselves enormous favors without having to go through all those different countries' laws. Like, you gotta bribe all the politicians, campaign contributions, lobbyists, get the laws passed. That's kind of a pain in the ass, right? Instead, you do it through a trade deal, and then in the trade deal, you say that those sovereign countries can't even argue with that trade deal. Isn't that amazing? That actually, for the first time, puts corporations not on par with nation states, but above nation states, which is exactly, unfortunately, the situation the entire world finds itself in now. But don't worry, luckily, Americans, which are now driving this process more than anyone else, elected a progressive president, Barack Obama. And obviously this might happen under Bush or so, but no. We've got change in America, so obviously President Obama isn't going to participate in this nonsense, except for the fact that, of course, he is spearheading it. Now, Huffington Post explains, because they were the ones that got the documents that show you what's in these deals. In fact, they got it from one of the 12 nations that are participating. So, one of the most controversial provisions in the talks includes new corporate empowerment language insisted upon by the U.S. government, which would allow foreign companies to challenge laws or regulations in a privately run international court. So, I don't like your law about pollution in Australia. Sad day for you. Your law no longer exists. I go to a privately run court and I take my case there, and lo and behold, number one, my chances are far, far better. And number two, if that court says the ExxonMobil is right and the people of Australia are wrong, that's a sad day for the people of Australia. You've lost your sovereignty. By the way, among those 12 nations are the United States of America. Yes, we're leading this movement to take away our own sovereignty. I'm sure Republicans are enraged by this, right? I mean, they're always talking about sovereignty. Nothing takes away our sovereignty more than this agreement does. I'm waiting. Republicans, I'm waiting on you. Nothing so far. Because when a corporation takes away our sovereignty, Republican politicians love it. But to be fair, so do Democratic politicians like Barack Obama. So Huffington Post explains further. Under World Trade Organization treaties, this political power to contest government law is reserved for sovereign nations. So that's the old system. The new system would be, sorry, sovereign nations, now corporations are just a tiny rung above you. They get to also bring you to international court. And it's a privately run court. Well, I'm sure, as I said, President Obama and his progressive team must be fighting back. Here's what Huffington Post reports. The United States, as in previous rounds, has shown no flexibility on its proposal. Meaning, not only did the United States propose this, but they will not allow any of the other countries to disagree. Now, because of that, the trade deal might not even happen. So that might be a good thing in an ironic way. But look at how the U.S. is adamantly saying you will allow corporations to take over your governments, as we have done here in the U.S. Gee, I wonder who's running the U.S. You think it's Obama? You think it's a politician? You think it's a single individual? If you have corporations fund all of our politicians, you're going to be surprised when it turns out those politicians are in fact working for those same corporations? No, but I hear, no, it's okay. Barack Obama is an African American. So he couldn't possibly be a sellout politician in favor of corporations. In fact, if you're a corporation, who would you have represent you? Someone obvious like Dick Cheney going around giving, no bid contracts? Or someone who's not obvious at all, but does the same things. So, under NAFTA, companies including ExxonMobil, Dow Chemical, and Eli Lilly have attempted to overrule Canadian regulations on offshore oil drilling, fracking, pesticides, drug patents, and other issues. Companies could challenge an even broader array of rules under the TPP language. You want to have your own laws about pollution, fracking, pesticides. You don't get to decide. Now Monsanto gets to decide. Dow gets to decide. Exxon gets to decide. If they want pesticides in your food, you will have goddamn pesticides in your food. Who do you think runs this place? The Obama administration is insisting on mandating new intellectual property rules in the treaty that would grant pharmaceutical companies long-term monopolies on new medications. As a result, companies can charge high prices without regard to competition from generic providers. Now, for the people who voted for change under President Obama, which by the way includes myself, sorry. Apparently change meant I'm going to make it worse than Bush. Now, if you remember under Bush, these drug companies got the same exact deal. Our government could not even negotiate with them. In order to get lower prices for Medicare, Medicaid, save the taxpayers money, you would normally negotiate. And the government, since it's a giant customer, would have huge negotiation leverage. They put it in the law that the government could not negotiate. The drug companies just name their price, and like suckers, the taxpayers pay it. Now, not only did Obama include that in Obamacare as well, as he was fighting the insurance companies and the drug companies. Go to what? No one loved the Obamacare law as much as the drug companies did. It does some positive things like cover more people, but what it also does is in return, it says you have a mandate, you must buy private insurance, you cannot buy government insurance, and you must pay whatever rate the drug companies say. So Obama continued that from Bush, but now he's adding another part to it where that law wouldn't just apply to the US, it would apply to this entire trade group. So making Bush's horrible policies that gave these giant advantages to corporations global. How's that for change you can believe in? Well, I'm sure they've been flexible on this. Oh, look at this. Also, according to the December memo, the U.S. has reintroduced a proposal that would hamper government health services from negotiating lower drug prices with pharmaceutical companies. It doesn't appear that they're very flexible at all on that. It appears that they are blasting forward to make sure that you have an incredibly high price on your medication throughout the world. By the way, when you have a high price, a lot of people can't afford it. More people die. By the way, in very, very large numbers. Well, if they can't afford the drug prices that the multinational corporations set, sad day for them. They should have elected a president instead of the donors electing the president. The donors paid for Obama, they get what they paid for. The Obama administration is seeking to curtail, as they explain here, the use of capital controls by foreign governments. The loss of these tools would dramatically limit the ability of governments to prevent and stem banking crises. Oh, great. If the rest of it wasn't bad enough, if you like the banking crises of 2008, well, we got a lot more of that in store for you, brought to you by this so-called progressive president. The Republicans agree, the Democrats agree. It's time to screw over the American people and people all over the world and let the drug companies, the banks, and all of the other large corporations in charge run amok. And on this issue, quote, the United States shows zero flexibility. If you thought we were in the pocket of the drug companies and ExxonMobil, wait till you get a load of us on the banking issue. Zero flexibility. You will do exactly as American banks, and by the way, also Swiss banks, English banks, German banks tell you to do. They run the world. Finally, Paul Davis, an ACT UP protester, says, hey, wait a minute. I thought President Obama said that he was going to follow in the footsteps of Nelson Mandela. In fact, he says the president says his whole career is inspired by Nelson Mandela. Well, then he needs to follow through on Mandela's commitment to allowing access to affordable drugs in the developing world. See, that's a very good point. Nelson Mandela fought really hard after his presidency was over to make sure that they got lower drug prices to help with the AIDS epidemic in South Africa and all over the world. President Obama would now be doing the exact opposite, making sure that AIDS drug prices, as well as drug prices that address all of the other ailments, are as high as they can be. Remember when Obama said this after Mandela passed away?
I am one of the countless millions who drew inspiration from Nelson Mandela's life. My very first political action, the first thing I ever did that involved an issue or a policy or politics, was a protest against apartheid. And like so many around the globe, I cannot fully imagine my own life without the example that Nelson Mandela set. And so long as I live, I will do what I can to learn from him.
Except for what you're doing right now. So interesting full circle. Apparently the first thing he ever did was fight on Mandela's side, and Now, as president, one of the last things he does is to make sure to destroy Mandela's legacy by making sure that the drug companies set whatever prices they want in all these different countries.